Hi, this is Regina Y Favors with Overcoming Setback series, and so I want to talk about how you should work through the 7 stages of setback. So this is going to give you an introduction to the 7 stages of setback that I created myself, and they are fully explored in my book Overcoming Setback: 5 Keys for Entering, Exiting, Correction. And so it's all about the correction process. To exit setback, you have to go through correction. And to go through correction, you have to receive instruction in order to advance, because instruction or correction is just another form of instruction. And you cannot exit setback without some sort of mentoring, some guiding, listening to your conscience, receiving instruction to move you forward. So this is Overcoming Setback series, working through the 7 stages of setback. Please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. If you are interested in further audio lessons, hit the notification bell. Thank you for listening. So the 7 stages of setback, this is an introduction to the correction process. And yes, it is focusing on setback, but the goal is to overcome setback. And again, the only way that you can overcome setback is through correction. So the 7 stages of setback include the following: missed opportunity, punishment, pain, correction, recovery, restoration, and advance. And so throughout this audio lesson, we're going to go through each stage of setback. Stage 4, correction, so understanding process. So the correction is sort of like the middle of the whole process of overcoming setback. The book is titled Overcoming Setback: 5 Keys for Entering, Exiting, Correction. And you would think that I would begin with correction, but I needed to begin with I needed to begin with all of the stages of how you get to correction, right? Everything that you did prior to that now is required to be corrected. So let's look at understanding process. So correction is defined as the returning of something to its former place or condition. It is the reinstatement of a previous practice, right, or custom. The purpose of correction is to get you back on the original path set for you, or you set for yourself. You know, the best analogy for this is the course analogy, which I love to use. So if you were taking a math course, and we all have this understanding, everyone, it doesn't matter what your race is, ethnicity, nationality, everyone understands that in math, you have to show your work. There is no exception to the rule. You have to show your work. I remember a teacher, I teach college English, and there was this math teacher, math faculty member. She was grading the math papers of her students. And I was just in awe of how she looked at their problem resolution line by line. Now, I look at my students' papers line by line as well. But I thought it was just so fascinating what she was doing, that she was looking at it line by line, and every line she marked an X or she marked a check mark. And the visual of that just really just impressed me, right? And then of course you always have a student who sort of just puts the answer down on the math test, and you can't do that. And so then if you are corrected, what happens with a person like that who won't show their work, they end up failing a lot of their tests, and then they have to retake that course. So now you are in another semester retaking that course along with other next level courses that you passed from the previous level, and that they become harder each time you move up the level. So you are annoyed, you don't want to have to take this test, but there are some courses that are required for graduation. And so your core courses at 2 levels, the 1 and the 2, they are required for graduation. So you have to take this math course. So now you are taking this math course, you're taking other courses that are very hard to do as well. And what has to be corrected for you is that you have to show your work. And now you have to show your work in everything. So the original path required you to show your work. You decided that you didn't want to obey that instruction, and that's inherent instruction, and it's direct instruction. The test tells you, the teacher writes or types on the paper, show your work. That's an instruction. You decide to disobey that and turn in the assignment as if it's complete. It's incomplete. So a lot of times students will try the same thing again to see if they can get over on the new teacher, not realizing that each math teacher is the same. They all tend to be the same in their thinking. You got to show your work. So now you are forced to show your work, do the other work required in other classes. But as long as you meet that standard, as long as you obey that instruction, you should be able to pass that course. And when you do, you pass the course. So the purpose of correction is to get you back on the original path set for you, or you set for yourself. The correction process may be longer than immediate pain, even though when you are in pain, we think it will never end. Correction is longer because you flunked that first course. Now you must take the course all over again and endure another course at the same time. So that's basically what I hinted at. If you are in correction, you can't expect to learn what you were supposed to learn. Otherwise, you may live in correction in perpetuity. Again, look at the person, think about the people who are in jails and prisons, literal corrections facility. I always wonder if people who go in and get life, if they had a previous offense first that was usually a warning, and they probably did a few months of time or something like that. But now they have graduated to a certain act that now requires life. And so now they are in perpetual correction, and in perpetuity, and perpetual means forever. That's a shame that you should die in prison. That is not life. That is not succeeding. You may have to make do with it and make peace with it, but that is a life not well lived. Consider the people who are in jails, prisons, corrections, literal corrections facility. They missed the first warning. They went through punishment, pain, and then moved into correction. But then maybe on their first offense, they also made it to recovery, restoration, and advance. Those are the next stages of setback. But if they are in jail and or prison, they return for a second, third, or fourth time, and they have no way of getting out through good behavior or on a technicality, then they are essentially in correction forever. Something in you should have been upset by the time you went back to jail for a second time. It shouldn't take 3, 4, 5 times. All of us can be bullheaded and just not understand. Sometimes we can make decisions and we understand that we are making a decision, but we don't understand the long-term consequences of that decision, because you cannot choose the consequence. You can choose to make the decision, but you cannot choose the consequence. And so no one would ever think that if they did something, it would create a setback of life in prison. But that's what it can do. By the time you get to your second or third time, you should be tired. So now going back and forth into prison is basically energizing for you. It's not wearing you down. It's not tiring you out. It's not, therefore, you're not really learning in correction, because you didn't learn anything while you were in the correction facility, and you're not learning anything when you get out. There's somebody you are not listening to, or somebody you are around who is not telling you the right thing to do. And so you need correction. You need to be able to obey an instruction in order to advance. Correction is that crossroad. During correction, you go back and forth, straddling the fence of right and wrong, deciding the pros and cons of each choice you desire to make, and reconciling your emotions with your heart and your head. And a lot of times what we do in correction is like I said, we have this philosophical way of looking at the deed that we've done. And we don't call it wrong. We don't call it the right thing to do or whatever. We call it what we want to do. But eventually, if you want to get out of that prison, you're going to have to do what you need to do to get out of the prison. The problem with this, and this is an example, the problem with this is that if you're going back and forth into the same thing that keeps holding you down, and it doesn't have to be prison, it can be another situation, then you are basically becoming an actor. You are putting on a face. So if you go before the parole board, probation board, or something like that, you have learned to put on a certain type of face to appeal to them to let you out. And that's essentially you acting, right? But you don't have a heart change. And when you don't have a heart change, you can't sustain that once you get out. You're going to return and reset back to the things you've been doing. And so this going back and forth is people thinking that they have all the time in the world to change, all the time in the world to be corrected. But correction is seasonal, and it's long too, but it's definitely seasonal. And a lot of times, if you don't get corrected in that season, the later correction may be down the road, which might require longer time in terms of process. The right choice needs to be made, but we often make choices that are wholly convenient. In other words, we make the choice that feels good in the moment and hope later that we have not made a mistake. Since we usually do, it is likely that we will circle that old wagon of missed opportunity and complete the processes all over again. So each time you decide not to adhere to an instruction, that's your missed opportunity. So now you have to go through the stages of setback all over again. After a while, that should get tiring. That should be something that is not appealing to you. But people bring in these distractions, and they don't see the situation for what it really is. And so that's something too I want you to think about. All right. Hopefully you gain some insight from this stage of setback. Like, subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell for more discussions. You can visit YouTube for more content, Regina Y Favors channel. And on that channel are also sections for other YouTube channels I run. You can always send me an email, reginayfavors@yahoo.com. The book will become available October 2021, Overcoming Setback, 5 Keys for Entering and Exiting Correction. Thank you for listening to this audio and visiting the channel. Have a great day.